I never thought I would live to see the day that our king's prayers would be answered. But what I witnessed in the years that followed, I will carry with me forever. This is the tale of a blessing that was cursed from the start. It all began in the heart of our village, Omoda, where the sun always seemed to set in hues of gold. We lived in harmony with the land, and the rhythm of the village's life was marked by the seasons and the ceremonies of our ancestors. The king, Okoro, was beloved by all. He ruled with fairness, kindness, and wisdom. His wife, Queen Nia, was adored just as much, yet there was one thing missing in their perfect life: a child to inherit the throne. For years, they prayed to the gods of our land: Olekan, the river goddess, Oromola, the god of wisdom, and Ocean, the goddess of love and fertility. They consulted the village elders, the shamans, and even the foreign healers who came through Moda. Yet, year after year, their hopes were dashed. The king's heart grew heavy as the years wore on. Queen Nia, too, wept quietly in the night, but she never showed it to the people. She held her head high, always the perfect queen. I remember the day that change came. It was in the 4th month of the year, during the great rains. The air was thick with the smell of wet earth and the sound of thunder echoing through the skies. Queen Nia, who had been feeling ill, summoned the royal herbalist, Bobatond. He was an old man with hands that seemed to know every leaf, every root, and every cure that our land could provide. When Bobatond announced to the palace that the queen was pregnant, it was as if the entire village had been set alight. I was there in the courtyard when the drums began to beat, and the cries of joy rang through the air. The king danced, his feet light as a child's, and his face glowed with joy. The people of Umoda celebrated with song and dance, lighting fires and offering sacrifices to the gods who had finally smiled upon our king and queen. But even in that moment of jubilation, something felt off. The gods, I thought, are not quick to give such gifts. They do not hand out blessings without reason, and often, those blessings come with a price. And so, whispers began to grow. Elder Okin, a man known for his wisdom and reverence for the spirits, spoke of an ancient prophecy that had been passed down through generations, one that spoke of a royal child who would bring both joy and sorrow to the kingdom. The day the child was born, it was a stormy one. The winds howled, and the rains fell in sheets, drenching the land. The palace was alive with noise, the cries of the newborn prince echoing through the halls. The king, his face wet with both rain and tears, held the baby up for all to see. He named him Oliwesgan, which means God's victory. But there was something that caught the eyes of the king and queen on the baby's back: 3 small birthmarks, arranged in the shape of a triangle. They didn't say anything at first, not even to Bobatond, who had been present at the birth. They kept it hidden, afraid of what it might mean. But the prophecy echoed in my mind: the child would bring both great joy and great sorrow. I cannot begin to describe the horror of that night. I saw Jamalo leave the palace with the baby wrapped in cloth, and I could see the hesitation in his eyes. He was a man of honor, but this was a task no one could bear. The forest loomed in the distance, its silhouette dark and foreboding under the moonlight. And yet, as the night passed, we received word that Jamalo had returned, but without the child. It was then that the unthinkable happened. The next morning, a local hunter named Boba Nuru, who often wandered the forest in search of game, found the baby, crying helplessly in the clearing. The hunter, an old man who had seen many things in his life, was moved by the child's innocence. He took the baby in his arms and vowed to protect him, raising him in secret, far from the kingdom's watchful eyes. The boy, whom the hunter named Adibeo, grew up under the hunter's care, learning the ways of survival in the wild. The hunter became like a father to him, teaching him the ways of courage, resilience, and strength. But as Adibeo grew, he began to wonder about his true identity. He had always known he was different: his strength, his keen senses, his strange dreams. But the truth of his lineage would remain hidden until the day he ventured into the village that had been his home. It was there, in the heart of Omoda, that Adebayo's journey would truly begin. The villagers recognized him immediately. His eyes, his bearing, they were unmistakable. Whispers spread like wildfire, and it wasn't long before the king's soldiers came for him. They took him before the king, and it was there that the truth was revealed. The child of prophecy, the son of King Okoro and Queen Nia, had returned. But the king, now an old man, could not bear the weight of the prophecy any longer. He wept for the son he had condemned to death, and the curse of the blessing came full circle. Adebayo, now grown and with the weight of destiny upon his shoulders, was forced to confront his past, his mother, and the tragic fate that had been foretold. As he stood before the king, the birthmarks on his back burned with an unspoken truth. The prophecy was not just a story, it was their reality.